Welcome to Open Door. My guest today is Chuck Conway Jr., radio, TV host and producer, and the son of a very important figure in Cleveland radio. Welcome to Open Door, Chuck.
Hey, Vince, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, man. I can't believe that we're finally having this conversation. You know, I've known you for several years, brother. I mean, we go back to the 80s when I was working at WJMO as a news reporter, and you were doing what?
I was doing the same thing. I was on radio back in them days. We go back 40 years or more, and I was doing things over there at JMO with James Otis. Me and James Otis was doing a TV show called Telejam. Eric Stone was there, and we had a good time.
Okay. So your role at JMO, was it in promotion? What exactly were you doing?
At JMO, I was doing the voice for Ben Hobart. He had a show on there. I forget the name of the show, but it was a talk show, and I did the voice for him, the open and closed voice for him, and I did several commercials at JMO during that time, and I was a record promoter during that time and a TV show host.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to talk about the different roles that you've played and shows that you've done and some of the things that you are doing now. But I first want to talk to you about your famous father. A few months ago, I had Ken Hawkins Jr. on this show, and he talked about his father. And it seems as though there are a lot of parallels between your father and his father. So tell me about Chuck Conway Sr.
My father was one of the first black African-American disc jockeys in Cleveland, Ohio. He followed a guy by the name of Walking, Talking Bill Hawkins. My father and Ken Hawkins were partners, and my father did a lot of things with, my uncle was Barry Gordy. That's my grandmother's brother. That's, they are sister and brother, different fathers, but the same mother. But that's my uncle, and my father had a lot to do with Barry Gordy getting started in Motown. And before Motown was even started, it was a record label. My auntie named Anna. Anna Gordy is another sister of Barry Gordy's, and she had a record label called Anna Records. She discovered Marvin Gaye. She married Marvin Gaye. They wrote that Lonely Teardrops for Jackie Wilson, and this was all before Motown had got started. And my dad played a big role in Motown, and a big role at JMO as well. Him and Ken Hawkins were partners. They did a lot of shows together. And then after that, there was a station called WABQ, which you were familiar with, 1540.
Mm-hmm.
And there was two disc jockeys there, Jockey Jack Gibson and Eddie Castleberry. My father was on the air with them, and they did a lot of stuff at the Keith 105 Theater on 105th and Euclid Avenue. They did a lot of things there at the Keith Theater. They kept that corner was hot. They were selling records out the back of the station wagon. My father had the sound truck. They're selling records out the back of the sound truck. Records all piled up in there, and after the show, people would come out and buy 45, 25 cents. Man, it was the good old days. I was a little baby boy, but I do remember a lot of things that they did, man. But yeah, my father was very important in black radio here in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just remembering my conversation with Ken, and he was talking about how, his father had him, there when James Brown was there and a whole bunch of other folks, and he really didn't fully know about these folks. But later in life, he began to appreciate the fact that he was able to witness what he witnessed. What was it like for you to see your father interacting with all these famous people?
Well, once upon a time at Leo's Casino, I was the kid MC announcer. I was the kid announcer that had a little bitty microphone stand there, and I don't know, it might have been about 4 foot high, but I was the kid MC there at Leo's, and I remember introducing James Brown. I remember introducing the Supremes, Marvin Gaye. Matter of fact, Otis Redding, last performance was at Leo's, and I remember my dad and Ken Hawkins picking him up at Burke Lakefront, and Otis was telling my dad the airplane was not functioning right, and my father said, "Well, hey, look at get that thing checked out." Otis said, "No, I got to get to my next gig, man. I got a job. I got to get to my next job." And my father telling him and Ken said, "Man, please get your plane checked out, man. I'll never forget that thing." Otis said he got to go to his next gig, man. And as you know, and the world knows, he got on that plane from Cleveland and died. Him and the Barcades. Only one survived.
So what you're saying is that your father, or Ken Hawkins' father, could actually have saved his life had he listened.
Could have. They was there telling him, man. J.L. Wright was there. He told that story to a few people, man. He told the story to the house MC, which his name was Freddie Arrington. They called him Freddie the Freeloader. But my dad and them was from the station, and they introed Otis, had me as the kid announcer, the matinee kid announcer, and Otis said he got to go. Now, back to Ken Hawkins Jr., we were kids together because our moms were babysitters when our dads was on the road, but Ken didn't spend a lot of time with his dad like I did. I was with my father all the time. All the time. I can't. There's certain things I can't talk about right now that we did together in the music industry, and it was some gangster things that we did. I was a kid gangster. He was a gangster. He did some things, man. I'm a witness. I saw these things, and Ken Jr. wasn't there.
We're going to have to talk about this offline because now you got me curious. You got me curious about what y'all were doing, but okay.
Well, I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about that in person. But yeah, we did some things.
Right. So I can't let this get by. You are at Leo's Casino all the time, and I guess, after having seen the documentary that Dr. Leah Lewis did on Leo's Casino, and just understanding what was going on, I can't help but to think, how magical that must have been for you. The way it was described, it was a place where black and white folks came together and enjoyed music, and on top of that, you as a young person were able to see people like the Supremes and, all the Motown acts that came through, all those folks that your father had those connections with. What was that like for you?
Can I talk about one illegal thing I used to see?
Okay.
Upstairs was a hotel called the Quad Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
My father, Leo Frank, Jules Berger, Lenny Lexenberg, they're all gone now. So I can't get any. I can't go to jail for this. But upstairs, they used to shoot crap. They used to have crap games with everybody. Shoot dice and well, I'm not gonna mention one other thing, but the OJs was in debt with Leo's for a long, long time. And Leo was like their manager. And every time the OJs came to Cleveland to do a show, they didn't get paid at Leo's because they owed Leo. They had a thing called the Battle of the Stars. The Temptations versus the OJs. OJs will whoop their butt. They will outdress them. There was a barbershop. He still does my hair right now, Mr. Decemberly. Barbershop called Chris Barbershop on Crawford and Huff. All the entertainers that came to Cleveland back then, my father used to work process the ways. He took everybody down to Chris Barbershop to get their hair done. And that was the thing, man. The riots, I saw that. Saw the riots. Carl B. Stokes was the mayor then. He called my father. He helped him get elected. He called my father during the time the riot started. And it was in the sound truck. I'm in the back of this sound truck. Carl Stokes telling people, please stop the riots. Let's have some peace. Go home. My father did a lot in this town, man. God bless him.
Yes.
I miss him. I miss him so much.
Yes. So was what he was doing effective in terms of the impact of the sound truck and the folks who were in those neighborhoods that witnessed it?
Oh, the sound truck played a big part. That sound truck saved all the lives, man. Every time Dr. King came to Cleveland, Dr. King would call him to let him know that I'm coming to Cleveland. They hired my father. The SCLC, I think was called the what SCLCCA or something.
The Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Okay, that organization would call my dad, or him and Dr. King was real close. Matter of fact, the woman that I'm married to right now, the house in the back, when she was a kid over there on East Boulevard, Dr. King stayed in that house over the garage when he would come to Cleveland. It's right there on, what's that street there? 99, the house still there. The house she was raised in. But, yeah, he would stay in that house. My dad would go by and see him, and they would have big parties there. That big old mansion is a mansion. Them houses there on, you know them houses on East Boulevard, mansions. And Dr. King would be at different plazas. Like I remember one time he was at Longwood Plaza that was on 40th and I want to say Quincy or Scoville. But man, there was so many people there. I thought I was at a Mick Jagger concert. But my father's sound truck would be there, and he would put the microphone up there. Dr. King would talk through the microphone. Sound truck had 4 speakers. Everybody in the neighborhood would hear Dr. King talk. So yeah, that sound truck was very effective, man. He got a lot of people elected. John F. Kennedy. Oh man, he did. Carl B. Stokes, Louis Stokes, his brother. Who else? Whoever. He worked. Matter of fact, he did things with LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, and all the presidents from the 50s on up to when he passed. He did them. Then I took it from there. I did Bill Clinton, thanks to Mike White. I helped Mike White get elected. Mike White won that race. He was running against George Forbes. George Forbes was concentrating on the black community. That didn't work. Mike White said, Chuck, I want you on the west side. We got Hispanic and different voices to do the recording. And I rode that sound truck through these different neighborhoods. And Mike White won that election, man.
That's an amazing story, Chuck. And we're going to talk more about that truck when we come back. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Belcar community radio station. We'll be back after these messages.
WOVU 95.9 FM and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health wants you to do your part and help all of us stay safe from the threat of COVID-19. The best protection against COVID-19 is to wear a mask, avoid crowds, stay 6 feet apart from others, wash your hands often, and get the vaccine when you are able. To learn more information about the COVID-19 vaccine and how to register when it's your turn, visit the Cuyahoga County Board of Health website at ccbh.net. That's ccbh.net. Do your part because we're all in this together. This message is brought to you by the Cuyahoga County Board of Health and WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door. Vince Robinson with Chuck Conway Jr. And he was just telling me about the legendary career of a certain truck, a sound truck that was used to broadcast political messages regarding political candidates. And apparently it had a successful impact on presidents like Johnson and Kennedy and certain Cleveland mayors like Mike White and possibly Frank Jackson. Did you use the soundtrack for Mr. Jackson?
The last candidate in Cleveland was probably Dennis Kucinich, but I kept it going. I kept the soundtrack going. I'm still doing the soundtrack as of now. I'm doing some things coming up with the COVID-19 vaccination shots that are available. I'm doing that pretty soon. I got a call from City Hall, and we want to let the people know where they can get vaccinated. That's coming up very soon.
Yes. You know what's interesting about that, Chuck, and pardon the interruption, but what's interesting about that is it is a relatively old technology, and you've got all these new technologies. We got cell phones and tablets and computers, but there's something effective about hearing that sound as it rolls through the streets.
Well, you know, Vince, I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell our listeners an old story here, man. That sound truck, back in the 60s, my father had a 24-volt battery on the floor. He had an amplifier, which I still got. It still sounds good. It was named Bell, Bell, with about 15 tubes in it. It had two big tubes, GS4 or something like that, the big tubes. They would get very hot. If you put your elbow on that Bell amplifier, better than that, if you put if you put a frying pan on top of that thing and put an egg in it, it would fry that egg. My father would tell me, "Do not touch the amp, Little Chucky." That was my name back then, Little Chucky. Don't touch the amp. I did a few times, so I got burnt. But now, technology, like you say, things have changed so much, man, where I use a cigarette lighter now. With no heat, I plug everything into a cigarette lighter and play the same speakers that he had on that sound truck. My father rode with me just before he passed. He said, "What is this little thing here?" I said, "Dad, watch this here." I put that thing up. He said, "Where did this come from? Why did I have this? What?" Man, I remember my father had a microphone hanging from the windshield wiper. I mean, from the that mirror on the windshield. Him talking into that thing. And I remember him having a record player on the floor, a turntable. Sometimes the record would jump. It would skip. Because he was riding over bumps and grooves and things. Then, later in the years, he got a reel-to-reel tape recorder. Had that in the sound truck. And then as time moved on, he went to what you call cassette.
Now you're using a cell phone, right?
Now I'm using a cell phone or
a laptop,
that jump drive thing now.
Okay. Yes.
So things have changed, man.
Yeah, and the vehicle has changed too.
He had a station wagon back in them days. They might have had vans back then, but he didn't have a van back in them days. I think in He had a 1955, before I was born, a 55 Plymouth. Then as I got older, I remember riding a 1960 Plymouth Fury, which he had two signs on the truck, and had a sign in the back, whatever he was advertising, and two speakers on top.
You know, this is neither here nor there, but I just had a flashback to my WJMO days, and I remember being a news reporter and driving around in a Ford station wagon. It was one of the least sexiest vehicles you could possibly be in. But I remember I used to be able to park that station wagon in the driveway next to City Hall. I could park that station wagon on the sidewalk in front of the school administration building for the Cleveland School Board. And it was never an issue. You know, I would park that station wagon in the driveway next to the old county administration building. Once again, no issue. Security guard knew who I was, knew what I was doing. No issue with that. But now we're just so far away from that. Anyway, it was just a flash.
You know what, Vince?
Yes.
I'm not interrupting you, man, but I got a picture of that station wagon, man.
Yeah.
That was the station wagon that they used to do the remotes.
Mm-hmm.
They had I remember going out on remotes. They had a board with two turntables on this suitcase. It was like a suitcase. You open it up, it had a mixer in the middle and two turntables on each end, and that station wagon was blue. And it had WJMO on it. And I do remember that wagon like yesterday.
Yes, yes. So we're talking about the 80s, and I'm just wondering if you can remember some of the various air personalities that you worked with. I know I remember working with Tony Harris. I worked with Lynn Tolliver Jr. I worked with Jeff Fox. You know, you mentioned Ben Holbert. Ben came after I was there. But there were just so many folks who came through. I think there was a James Otis, and then our friend Tony Cleveland. I remember he had a show. But there was just so many folks that people may remember. Who do you recall working with while you were at JMO?
JMO, Eric Stone was my man. Eric Stone, which he's in Las Vegas now. We talk once a week. James Otis was my co-host for Telejam. Tony Harris is the one who took me out to the Coliseum. There was a guy that owned the Coliseum whose name was
Nick Maletti.
Nick Maletti, the Italian guy. He the one took me out there to the Coliseum and said, "Hey, I got a young man who wants to do a TV show." And Nick and Tony Harris, God bless Tony, they are the ones responsible for me getting Telejam on the air. I remember another good friend of mine, Ron Lucky. Ron Lucky was there, and you had who used to come on? Rod C. Rod C was the midday mover. You had my girl. She was on Telejam for a while. She's in Washington now. Her name is Sherry Carter. Sherry Carter worked with me for a while. You had a very sexy girl. We lost her, man. She died. She went to work for a magazine company. You know her,
Angela McKelvey.
That's a beautiful girl.
Mm-hmm.
I work with her. And of course, we all work together now. Steve Boyd is with us. Kurt Shaw was there.
Yes. Yes.
Who else you had? You had.
Well, Curtis Shaw hired and fired me.
Oh yeah, well he did those type of things.
The only time I've been fired in radio, I mean, I've been laid off for various reasons, but Curtis.
Why did Curtis fire you? Why did he fire you?
I don't know. I think it was probably because of somebody on the staff that didn't care for me. But that's neither here nor there. Just, again, another flashback. But I'm sorry I interrupted you.
How was you and another good friend of my dad's? He was there during the time my father was there. What is his name? He was in sales, in charge of sales.
Was it Jim McCall or somebody?
No, way before. No, Jim McCombs and all them guys. No, the big boss. He talked. Oh, Van.
Oh, yeah.
I had to think of the voice.
Van Lane.
Well, Van Lane.
Yeah.
Now, you know, there's a story about Van Lane. Van Lane's brother, I forget his name, but he used to own the Keith Theater on 105, and he used to own the Hippodrome in downtown Cleveland. So all the shows my father and Jockey Jack and Ken Hawkins gave, it was all linked to Van Lane and his brother. They all made money back together in the 50s and the 60s.
Mm.
When I got to be able to ride the bus, or I was able to get dropped off, I never paid for no movies. My father would drop me off, and whoever was at the door would say, "Hey, Chuck, how you doing?" And my father dropped me off, and I walked right in the theater. That was the connection. Never had to pay for no movies.
That's amazing. So let's shift gears and talk about some of the other things that you do. You know, I shared with you before we started this interview that I ran across the tape, and the tape was a recording that I made of a Jennifer Holliday concert. Back in the day, I shot and wrote for Echelon magazine, which was created by Alexandria Boone, and I also worked with Bill.
I knew him.
I worked with Bill
I knew her,
Potts.
rather.
Yeah, I worked with Bill Potts at Crusader Arts and Entertainment. So I would cover shows, and I would always record the show because I was taking pictures while the show was in progress, and I couldn't write and shoot at the same time. So my approach was to record the show, and then I'd come home and listen to the show and review the show after listening to the recording. So I picked up this tape, and I put it into my cassette deck in my car, and it played the end of a Jennifer Holliday concert. And at the end of the concert, this brother comes on and he says, "My name is Chuck Conway Jr." And I'm like, wow.
What year was that, Lips?
It was 1991.
30 years.
30 years. So
And that was at the front row?
I don't know where it was. I just remember that, you know, I don't remember you being there, and I vaguely remember the concert. So I can't tell you where it was, but you know, listening to the tape brought it back to me. So yeah, it was Chuck Conway Jr. and you were saying, "Give it up for Jennifer Holliday."
Wow, it might have been. You know what I'm thinking, man. Since you mentioned that, I'm thinking it was the WHK Auditorium.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you remember George. You remember George?
George.
From the front row?
I didn't know him, but I remember the name, yes.
Because George ran the front row, and when the front row closed down back then, he went down to the WHK Auditorium, but I did several shows. What was George's last name? George,
I think it was Ween or something.
George White.
Yeah.
George White.
Mm-hmm.
Good. George White, he took over the front row, but that's what we were doing at the WHK Auditorium. I do believe that show, because the girl made what's the girl name? She got some type of disease now. Some type of.
Are you talking about Kim Sellers? Yes. Yeah, and we will. Yeah, we'll come back to that, but we got to take a break real quick. Time really flies when you're having these kinds of conversations. You're listening to Open Door on WOVU, and my guest is Chuck Conway Jr. This is 95.9 FM WOVU. What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your first task, wear a mask, protect yourself and others. Armor up, armor up. Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water. Armor up, armor up. Give others space 6 feet just in case. Armor up, armor up. Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion. Armor up, armor up. Vitamin C, D3, and more. Armor up, armor up. Elderberry, zinc, and echinacea from the store. Armor up, armor up. Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs. Armor up, armor up. Let go of stress. Make sure you rest. Armor up, armor up. Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19. Armor up, armor up. We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Chuck Conway Jr. He is a radio TV host and producer. He's also an announcer. He has a truck that he uses to make money, among other things, but also to inform the public. And he's told us that he is going to be advising folks to go out there and get their vaccine as soon as possible. But let's get back to the stories, man, because you got a million of them. So Jennifer Holliday, WHK Auditorium, you're on stage there, but I'm sure that you emceed a lot of other shows. Can you tell us about some of the other things that you did as an MC?
Man, well, I got just thinking in my mind. I want to write a book as soon as possible, but it's going to be probably 3 editions of the book, man, because I got so much on my plate here, man. We were talking about Kim Sellers just before we took a break.
Right.
Kim is a very good, dear friend of mine. I love her. Her ex-husband, Brad, over in Warrensville, he's a good friend of mine as well, the mayor of Warrensville Heights. But Kim did a lot of things with us, man. I mean, she MC shows with me and Lynn Tolliver and Jeffrey Charles. We had a place on the west side. That place there, I thought I was the king of New York. What was the name of that place? I was so popular there. Excalibur.
Okay.
Man, Excalibur had 3 dance floors. I had my own suite. I had a suite up there that I had nothing. I'm not ashamed to talk about it. I had nothing but women in there because I was a single man. I had fun. I was on TV. I had a thing up there on that 3rd floor. The only guys come up there was to bring me something to drink and some food. But I had a ball. That Excalibur, man, was so beautiful, man. You had a pool room there. You had you had 3 stages of dancing. I did my TV show there. So me and Jeffrey Charles, Jeff was on the show then. We would do this show, and then we would just shut the club down, and it was ours. I mean, we owned the club.
Chuck, I'm really sorry I didn't know you well back then. I missed out.
You knew me, Vince. We knew each other. But
I didn't know you like that.
Thing.
I didn't know you like that.
Yeah, but you was into your news. You was a very popular newscaster, and you did a good job as you are doing now. But as far as partying, I never saw a lot of you partying, man. I mean, I remember you had your afro back in the day. I had a fro. Then I had a jerry curl sometimes. But as far as the veils and the State Theater and Happy Apple and the Mad Hatter and the what's the club down there on Euclid? You used to call it what's the club on Euclid? It was named after the interstate. Interstate, what is it called? 71 or 71 South or something?
Yeah, that one I'm not familiar with.
Okay, but all them clubs, man, you weren't there. But man, I'll tell you, I was at every club. Matter of fact, once upon a time in Cleveland, I'm emceeing or I'm doing a show every night of the week. That's once upon a time.
That's amazing.
Every night, Chuck Conway Jr. was somewhere. I was at 105. He had Angelo's, which I missed that place, right across the street from a golf gas station. Now the VA hospital owns all that stuff now, but you had Angelo's. You had on St. Clair. You had a place called the McGee's Lounge. You had, man, I was at Vale's. I was at Gerald Levert had a club called Verts. I was at a club in the fact called the Happy Apple and the Beach Club and the, oh my goodness, it was so much fun, man. You had the old gay, the old Gaylords changed their name. The guy brought the club. It was called what was the club? They changed the Gaylords to a club there. It was because the last David Ruffin last performance was at the Front Row Theater here in Cleveland. I left my keys at the Front Row Theater. And somebody was so nice that they knew me. The chauffeur had bought my keys all the way from the front row to where we had Dennis Ruffin at a place called, what was that doggone place? Bear with me just a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. The club was, anyway, the Plush, that's it, the Plush.
Mm-hmm.
The Plush Lounge. The Plush was on Miles Avenue, which used to be the old Gaylord Giant Tigers. Anyway, David Ruffin was there with me. My keys were at the Front Row Theater. The chauffeur brought the keys down to me from the front row, and me and David Ruffin and the girls all was having a good time. And David Ruffin had about $20,000 and a thing what you call a money belt. He had a belt on his waist, had $20,000 in it. He said, "Chuck, I got to get back to Detroit. I'm leaving." He said, "How much would the guy charge me to drive me from Detroit to Cleveland?" I said, "That's between y'all." David Ruffin, I don't know if I'm talking too much. I'm going to tell the story. I don't care who's listening. But whoever took David, it was a chauffeur, took him from Cleveland to Detroit. David died. I don't know what happened from there. The story I was told that he OD'd or however, whatever happened to him, but the last time I saw David Ruffin was at the Plush, and the last time I seen him was getting in that limousine. So I don't know what really took place of David. David was a good guy. And my father was good friends. I remember back in probably about 1964, David wore these big glasses. I thought it was a big buck. I thought it was a big fly. It scared me, man. He was running around the hotel, hollering and crying and shouting out loud. I ran up under the bed. The hotel was called the Versailles. I don't know if you remember the Versailles. It was a hotel called the Versailles down on Euclid Avenue where the Temptations stayed. All the big entertainers stayed at the Versailles Penthouse Supper Club. But David scared me, man. I talked to him when I got grown. I said, "Man, why you scared me like this?" He said, "Man, that was my glasses, man. I didn't know I was scaring you, Chucky." He said, "That was my glasses."
Looked like Fearless Fly, huh? Fearless Fly glasses.
Man, them glasses scared me, man. I'm like 4 or 5 years old, man, but he hollering. You know, David had an attitude thing, man. He would holler and cuss people out, and he get mad and break out in outbursts, and I'm scared now. I'm a kid. I run up under the bed. My father told him, matter of fact, they had a show to do. My father and Ken Hawkins brought him to Cleveland to perform at the Versailles Penthouse Supper Club. Eddie Kendricks went out to Midway Lake and broke his wrist. He told my father, I am not going to be able to perform, Chuck, because I'm in too much pain. The Temptation will not perform tonight. I won't tell it like it is. My father said, if y'all don't perform tonight, y'all ain't going to Detroit. Y'all won't get back to Detroit.
That was Gangster Dad showing up, right?
My father said that, and guess what they did? They got on that stage. Bro, Eddie had his wrist wrapped up, and I think I wish it would rain. And Eddie Kennedy, I wish it would rain. That was the big record. I wish it would rain, but they did that show.
That is amazing.
The show was sold out. So how you gonna tell somebody you got a sold out show, you're not performing? Because you went out to Midway Lake and got on that horse. I mean, that horse name was Black Thunder. I'll never forget that horse. God saw that horse a few times. Black Thunder at Midway Lake. He saw that horse, broke his wrist. Midway Lake was owned by Sumner Harris' father. Matter of fact, he died. His name was, he died leaving Midway Lake. They own Zora House. That's Harris spelled backwards. Sumner Harris, Janet Harris, Bobby Harris, and he had another brother on a record shop, Jerry. He had a record shop. He died in an airplane crash. He was flying his own plane. But anyway, the father's name was Toby Harris. He died leaving Midway Lake. It was raining one night, and he died on the freeway. That's Route 322. But, yeah, the Temptations and all them was out there at Midway Lake. I remember my father and them had their own little cabin, because they had cabins out there then. And my father, Ken Hawkins, they had their own cabins, and the show was supposed to be that night. And it did be that night, because they made it happen. But you told me I ain't going to do the show. My father said, you ain't going back to Detroit. They got on that stage and did that show.
Okay.
Go ahead. Speaking about, you going to take a break?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Speaking about Midway Lake, man, they had a club there, man. Oh my goodness, they had a club there. It was called the Townhouse. When I got to be about 18 years old, man, I was DJing out there. That place was so beautiful, man. They treated me like I was the king, the Harris family. They gave me a cabin staying all weekend. I spent the records Friday and Saturday and had a Sunday matinee type thing. But man, I had a ball at that doggone Midway Lake. Bobby Harris was married to a girl. I'm not going to call her name. Bobby Harris was one of the Dazz Band guys. He had a girl so jealous, man. I remember we had about 1,000 people there for a Dazz Band show. And, Bobby, good-looking dude, girls like him. You see the Dazz Band, okay? So the girl kissed him. Would you believe she slapped that girl off the stage? Slapped her off the stage, man.
Wow.
Boy.
Hold your thought, because we're going to finish this story when we get back. You're listening to Open the Door with Vince Robinson and Chuck Conway Jr., radio television host, MC, and entrepreneur. We'll be right back right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burtonville Car Community radio station. We'll be right back.
Breaking news from the WOVU newsroom.
Hello, I'm Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. Throughout the state of Ohio, there are good, law-abiding citizens making a positive impact on their communities who want to do more. But something stands in their way.
Has a conviction hindered your opportunities for a better life? Have you gone at least 10 years without a conviction in Ohio? Has your clemency application been delayed? If so, you may qualify for the Ohio Governor's Expedited Pardon Project. Governor Mike DeWine is teaming up with the University of Akron School of Law and the Ohio State University Moritz College of Law to help reformed individuals receive pardons more quickly than the traditional process. You can find more information about the project and learn how to submit a free application at ohioexpeditedpardon.org or governor.ohio.gov. To qualify, you must not have any disqualifying offenses, have no convictions, or serve time within the last 10 years, excluding minor traffic violations, made efforts to satisfy requirements of sentencing, a history of volunteering or community service, and a work history or reasonable circumstances for being unemployed. Don't wait to take control of your life. Governor DeWine encourages you to apply for the Expedited Pardon Project because he believes that a past conviction should not cost you forever. Once again, please visit ohioexpeditedpardon.org or governor.ohio.gov for more information on how to submit a free application. That again is ohioexpeditedpardon.org or governor.ohio.gov.
My Expedited Pardon Project will benefit Ohioans who are living in the shadow of a long past and regretted mistake, giving them the opportunity to truly have a second chance to reach their full potential.
This breaking news is from the WOVU Newsroom.
WOVU 95.9 FM and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health recognizes that the COVID-19 pandemic can affect your mental health. If you are in need of help, there is no shame in reaching out. Call 216-623-6888 or send a text to 4HOPE to 741-741. That's the number 4, HOPE, to 741-741. This message is brought to you by the Cuyahoga County Board of Health and WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
We're back on Open Door. Chuck Conway Jr. just told us about Bobby Harris's wife slapping a woman who came up on stage and kissed her husband. Pick it up from there.
You know what? I got to make a correction, audience. It was not Bobby. Bobby, it wasn't Kenny. Let me think. It was not Bobby. It wasn't
Michael Calhoun.
Oh, Skip.
Skip Martin.
Skip Martin. That's who it was.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for that. Now, Bobby, if you're listening, Bobby, you my friend, Bobby. I didn't mean to tell that story about you, Bobby, because me and you go way back to Kinsman Grill, when y'all was the Kinsman Dazz Band, back at the Kinsman Grill on 126th and Kinsman Avenue, across the street from the Whitmore Barbecue. But anyway, yeah, it was Skip.
Okay, so was she a tall woman? Was his wife a tall woman?
Tall, red face, red bone girl. Her name is
I don't remember her name, but I do remember her. So now this is making sense. So yeah.
You do remember her, right?
I do remember her.
Okay. That girl was a very jealous woman. She come up on that stage. She slapped that girl on the side where you walk up on the steps. She knocked off. As a matter of fact, a few concerts that I did with the Dazz Band, it was always a problem with a woman, but the boy was an entertainer.
Yes.
And she was pretty. Why would you get mad? You beautiful. I remember that girl. Red bones. Very pretty.
Yeah. That was back in the day when I knew Skip and I knew her, and then I remember Skip came back to Cleveland with Bobby for a Dazz Band performance that occurred at Luke Easter Park. It was that Family Unity or whatever it was before
there.
It became Family Unity Day. Yeah. Yeah.
I was there.
That. Yeah.
Zach Reed was a councilman.
Mm-hmm.
He did that thing. Yes. I remember that.
Yeah. Yep. So,
what was her name, man?
I can't remember her name. You're talking about like 20, 30 years ago, man. That was a long time ago. I'm long in the tooth. The brain doesn't work that well anymore for me to remember all of that. But I'm fascinated that you're able to remember so much about what happened, seeing how you've had all these experiences. I mean, it's It seems as though Chuck Conway Jr. has lived a very charmed life.
Wonderful life, man. Thank God, man. God, I'm saying, God, I thank you. I'm saying this on there. God, I thank you. I love you. And we're together because he's been good to me.
Yes. So talk about what you're doing now, because we spent a lot of time reflecting on things that have happened to you in the past, but, you know, you're still going and you're still carrying your father's legacy. You mentioned that you're going to be using the sound truck to promote the vaccine. What other kinds of things are you involved in right now in relation to broadcasting and the music business and all that good stuff?
I'm on the radio every Thursday night. Now, I changed my time from Saturday. It's a Thursday night, 9 o'clock, and your boss won't mind me saying this because I was on the air there at 95 for a while, but he know that I'm doing stuff over at Voice of Radio. So I'm doing the show at Voice of Radio, Golden Wax, every Thursday night, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm playing all the old school stuff. I'm there. I'm a co-producer of the show that you're hosting as well, 1490 show. I'm part of that. And I'm also working on my own radio station, which will be on the air by July. I'm putting my own radio station together. I got the funds. I just got confirmed as far as the money to do this thing. So I'm buying equipment right now. I will be on the air by July. I'm doing community service. I'm doing some oldies. I'm doing some of everything on that station.
Okay, is it going to be an AM or an FM station?
Internet radio.
Oh, internet radio. Okay.
Internet radio. WCJC. That's Charles James Conway. WCJC. Call letters. Internet radio.
Okay. Sounds exciting. Are you going to be doing all the programming yourself? Or are you going to have a staff, or how's that going to work?
I'm going to let the kids. I'm going to get the kids involved, man. I got to teach these kids what I know. So John F. Kennedy has they got a beautiful media classroom there, man. They got everything you could imagine over there at JFK. So I'm going to have them involved. And I'm going to have the kids do what I've done. I'll be the boss. I'm just going to look over and watch them do what I've done and make it happen, man.
Yeah, well, you know, that whole high school-based broadcasting platform can be extremely important and play a formative role in launching careers. I happen to have been involved in high school-based television, not so much radio. I mean, the extent of radio was I read the announcements in the morning. So at 9 o'clock, you know, we did this little show called Accent, and I'd come on every morning and I'd do the morning announcements and all of that. But we also had a closed circuit television station. So I went to Massillon, Washington High School, and Massillon, if you didn't know, was one of the, you know, perennial football powerhouses in the state. So, so we had a TV station, and I used to do the games from a press box on the roof of the stadium. And before the game, I would do a little pregame announcements. And, you know, it was interesting how much the technology has changed. I mean, we had a guy named Bill Dewald, and he was like the tech guy for our high school. And he connected a reel-to-reel a video tape deck with some type of a harness that he could wear this tape deck on his back. It probably weighed about 30 or 40 pounds. And then he had a cable connected from the tape deck to the camera, and it was a black and white camera. So we'd be down on the field, and he'd be recording with all of that going on the field. And then we had cable television in Massillon. So I was actually doing live broadcasts from the stadium on Friday nights of Massillon Tiger football. So my junior year, I was the color announcer, and then when I became the senior, I stepped into the play-by-play announcer's role. But I can only imagine what these high school students have access to. I mean, Chuck, when we were doing radio back in the day, they had these things called carts. It was like
I know about them things. I got some in the attic right now.
Yeah, it's like a one track 8-track. Yeah, it's like a 1-track 8-track. And then we moved into cassettes. And now reporters are going out and they're doing everything on their phone. Talk about the changes that you've witnessed in your broadcasting career.
Well, before we go to there, man, I'm going to. You mentioned you being the announcer. Man, that was the hardest job I ever had doing play-by-play radio. I was the radio announcer for the Harlem Road Kings, which is Showboat Robinson used to be a Harlem Globetrotter. But I was on the road with them guys, man. I had to do that stuff, man. I said, this is the worst job. That and the news, I would never want to do it again. News and play-by-play, I would never want to do that in radio.
I loved it.
Now, I know you did. I heard you. Now, you mentioned about the morning announcements on school radio. I went to Whitney Young High School, junior high on Harvard, which the radio station was WMMY, I believe it was. But my father had a record shop called Chucky's Record. It was called, he named it after me. Chucky's Records. Chucky's Records. Chucky's Records Unlimited. That's what they called it. It's right next door to Boot and Shoe. Next door to Boot and Shoe was a cleaner. And on the corner was a Franklin Ice Cream. Then the football player owned the Goodyear Tire shop. Name was what's the guy played for the Browns? Whatever his name was. But anyway, I did that every morning. I would go do that show before I went to my classroom. But I had fun, man, because I said, okay, what's up, these sleepy heads? It's time to get up, get ready for your first period class, and we're going to make it good. I'll play shake and dance with me or kung fu fighting, whatever I was doing that time. But I played that stuff in the morning, man, back in the 70s. And I love that show, man. I love that morning show. Then my father would take me down to JMO. I was doing the commercials for Boot and Shoe shoe stores. He had about 5 stores. So I'm making $100 a week at 13. That was good, man. I was Boot and Shoe, and I was the voice of Boot and Shoe. Hey, look, Chucky, I got commercials that I might even give you one to put on your show. But hey, look, Chucky here, and I'm for Boot and Shoe. Get your shoes at Boot and Shoe store. Get your boots, alligators, and all the stuff. I talked about it all. But, man, Don King will come there. Nick Mullally, President Carter came a couple of times. But my dad and Carter was good friends. But, man, that corner, that record shop was famous. The Chuck E. Sounds Unlimited. And Boot and Shoe was next door. I don't know if you remember Boot and Shoe stores here in Cleveland. And Franklin Ice Cream used to have the best ice cream in town. But that radio show in the morning at Whitney Young, I loved it.
Yes.
And that's the end of the old days. The new days, I got the thing in my pocket right now called a flash drive. I do my whole show from my pocket.
That is amazing.
I do. I remember back in the day, all these records are 45. Matter of fact, if anybody is listening, I have about 5,000 records that my dad left me. If you want to buy them, because I took everything and transferred them, get in touch with Mr. Robertson. You can have them.
Okay.
They offer.
Okay. Well, look, man, I might be the very first person in line when you talk about that. I probably have about 1,200 to 1,500 albums myself. And I know that Wax
man, you ain't seen nothing. You ain't seen nothing.
I can imagine
because
you record store and radio stations, you put those things together and you've got the prescription for a huge amount of records. Chuck Conway Jr.
78, man. 78, man. 78, man.
Okay.
Chuck. 78.
Chuck.
Okay.
This has been
I know
amazing.
we gotta go.
This has been amazing, man. I've learned a lot about you in the past hour, and I'm sure the folks out there listening have done the same. Thanks for joining me on Open Door, my brother.
Thank you, my brother. And we're going to keep it moving, man. We got a lot of things to do.
Yes, we do. All right. Ladies and gentlemen.
And God bless America.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Conway Jr. on Open Door with Vince Robinson. Thanks for joining us. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your best day. Peace.